This week on News Time, new year, new you. With the new year comes new resolutions. It's the perfect time to reinvent yourself. Tired of being a fat slob? Go to the gym. Sick of spending all your extra cashish on frivolous things like prostitutes? Save that dough. And ho! This is time. Looking to be with your friends and family more? What kind of sick pervert are you? This week we'll take a look at the shows and movies that reinvented themselves retroactively. Some might call it a reboot. Some might say I've done this exact episode before. And for that, I say thanks for watching. And I'll also discuss Buzzfeed, Cracked, Feral, and Mashable's slow, ungraceful falls as media empires. Job cuts are the only thing we're going to experience. It's 2018, and I'm ready to party like it's 1998. Only on this News Time. This is a pretty good open. Solid job, Chad. Solid job. What are you saying? Party like it's 1999?
It's News Time. Delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
One week into the new year, and I already forgot to write an opening joke. Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the comedy news that you didn't know about. I know, dear viewer, you expected me to talk about those damned Golden Globes that occurred last night, but the fact of the matter is I plumb forgot they were coming on. As I type out this script, I'm receiving email after email from the top entertainment news sites about Seth Meyers' journey to hosting the show, or how the New York Times put up a Golden Globes for your consideration video about sexual misconduct in Hollywood, or how Tiffany Haddish, who was snubbed, gave a rousing 17-minute speech at the New York Film Critics Circle Awards show. That last one didn't have anything to do with the Globes. I just thought it best to mention one of the better speeches of the season. And peak TV continues to reign. Damn you, John Landgraf, for being so damn smart. Damn. No, I'm not here to talk about any of that. What I do want to mention is far less important than any of it. I've spoken on reboots before, like in this video from when I was a little boy who wanted to be a big boy, and just 8 months ago I spoke about game show reboots taking over television. And now reboots are coming to take over regular viewer airwaves as well. Look at NBC. The Peacock is all about the new Will and Grace, and the ratings are there to prove its successful endeavor. ABC is taking their turn with the revival of Roseanne, set to air 8 episodes this coming March. And CBS reignited weekly space exploration with its new, well-received entry into the Star Trek universe. And Fox's Lethal Weapon is one of the greatest procedurals on TV. And their later seasons of X-Files are, well, they have 2 seasons, I guess. What I'm saying here is that no property is safe from the reboot, or what should be dubbed as the soft reboot. Many of these properties aren't too far off from the early incarnations. The Will and Grace fans will say that the show is essentially the same, except there's current jokes about pop culture. There are timely jabs at the president, and sexuality is described as fluid. To put it simply, it's on fleek. And also, that's the last time I will ever use slang on this show again, homies. What is a reboot, reboot exactly? According to Google, it's a poorly CG animated Canadian cartoon that follows a mainframe guardian named Bob and his friends Enzo and Dot Matrix as they fight bad guys. Oh. That's not the reboot I needed. Apparently that's getting revival too, so it's kind of topical. Anyways, a reboot is when all of the continuity of an original series is tossed out in favor of new establishments like story and characters. Think of all the iterations of Scooby-Doo. Do we really need 12 iterations, not including the live-action and cartoon movies? No, but Warner will not let that property die. A post-series revival isn't really a reboot because it uses the original cast, but for the purposes of this video, no one else will ever see. It's going to be part of the reboot family. So let's dig into those soft reboots. This is when you only take a partial step into changing the series completely. Prometheus, for example, changed the Alien series in small, meaningful ways. Well, not meaningful for most people. And Superman Returns spoke highly of the first 2 Christopher Reeve films while ignoring the latter 2. And Terminator Genisys is 100% a movie that did in-universe changes while also trying and failing to start a new franchise. So why would a network or company want to take another ride on a property property they previously decommissioned? For the moolah, baby! There's only one way to continually rake in dough, and that's with putting the same crap out over and over again. Why cancel The Daily Show when a host leaves when you can just get a new host? Ratings might change slightly, but your major franchise is still intact. I also want to mention the continued fall of online media. In today's busy climate, not every site can be read. I mean, take a look at the numbers of this crap fest. I'm barely making enough to support my expensive yacht buying habit. Gotta get them yachts. Left and right, your favorite websites are forced to cut off limbs in order to survive. This is especially a big deal for news sites. The New York Times, Washington Post, and others trim the meat. Notice I didn't say fat because recently a lot of high-profile people have been let go just to get by. Although it's not one of the sites I ever want my Chrome to go to, Buzzfeed is definitely on the decline. At this point, no amount of listicles can save them. At the end of November, Buzzfeed dropped 100 employees and put a stop to their planned IPO. This happened after the, I don't want to say news site, entertainment site missed their yearly revenues by 20%, just like Vice. Of course, they're not the only ones in the midst of a struggle. Cracked, the magazine, turned the website, laid off a majority of their writers, causing outcry across the internet. I shouldn't say layoff. It was more of a mass killing of talent. Well, there's another term I probably shouldn't say. I'll go with goodbye times. Although this may not have been their fault, the site was purchased by Scripps last year and it did not do well, so the company is looking to, quote, right-size the business's expense structure, curtail investment, and bring it to profitability for the current year. So, good luck, I guess. And then there's Feral Audio, whose founder, Dustin Marshall, was recently caught in some... It's not looking good. The network looks to be on the outs after allegations. So now that's most likely going away as podcasts jump the ship to other networks. These witherings are enclosures of popular sites is one of the largest scale that we've seen in the digital age thus far. The Wrap correspondents John Levine and Sean Birch wrote an extensive article on the matter where they cited poor strategy, lack of scale, and the sheer sovereignty of Facebook and Google forced these sites into a corner they can't possibly get out of. Diving a bit deeper, Levine and Birch also mentioned how social media changes can cause a website to be knocked off its rocker. One xmike.com senior staffer told the writers that they would, quote, design stories to play into an algorithm. That person is so right. When I was working at a local news station, easily clickable articles were the goal ahead of the actual storytelling and news reporting. In fact, I had one of the highest clicked on articles of the year in the, and I cannot make this up, most popular baby names of 2017. An article that made me go back to my college and return my bachelor's in writing. I don't give a shit if it does get clicks. That is not news, and I will not sell my soul to Atlanta's third most watched local news show, and that is very much the truth. Let's explore that. When I was at the station, all I was ever tasked with before I rebelled and started doing my own bigger, veritably less successful dozen word features was writing top 10 lists and things to do for holiday crap. It wasn't fulfilling, and no amount of talking to my bosses or going out on my own would make it better. The reasoning behind my work being put down or shelved entirely is, and I'm partially quoting my ex-supervisor here, people will click on a list more than they will read an extensive essay about VR or gaming studios in the city or the history of protesting. This echoes what the Mike employees said further down in the Wrap article, saying, quote, you start picking stories based on what will do well on Facebook. People start to focus on that and not the news itself. Senior Director at Advanced Publications David Kahn would tell the Wrap that Facebook and Google have the upper hand at making the most money because of their duopolistic market share, which was $100 billion in ad revenue in 2017, or 85% of internet ad growth. Wow. Smaller sites don't have the power to get the bigger tools and thus fall flat. So where do sites like Buzzfeed, Cracked, and Mashable go when social fails them? They turn to video because they're easier to digest than word vomit. An emphasis on growth with a splash of a lack of awareness of where to actually take the growth leads to downfall. The Mike employee was cited saying sites could fall into a catch-22 situation. They need hits, but to get hits, you have to publish stories that get hits, but not every story is a hit. They continued on saying journalism is turned to traffic when that should have stayed its former self as journalism. Creating things, anything, is hard. The only solution companies are seeing, Khan says, is to be a composite of large-scale operations and smaller subscription-based ones. In the end, there's nothing any one outlet can do to combat Facebook and Google. Actually, they might not have to. Social is always said to be ruining traditional news reporting. And yes, I do hate including Buzzfeed as a news source, but that's where a bunch of you jerks get your news regardless. So for the time being, these sites are going to have to work with the giants in order to get a foot in the door. And that's all the news I have for you for this week on News Time. Why don't you subscribe or check out one of our other videos? Of course, you can always head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where there are so many jokes that you're going to laugh your little butts off. You can follow us on Twitter at cpluscomedy. Follow me on Twitter at ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Listen to the Constitutionals podcast. And this is not the third time I'm recording this ending. Shut up.